there is no recommendation coming from Amy or Clark or myself. This is an open, we all have this information. What are people's thoughts?
I'll start. I think the information in it, the suggestions in it, are all reasonable, and I think it is common sense. However, I believe doing this, creating this resolution, is stepping outside of our and I say that in that anytime we're going to be talking about guns, it's a politically charged situation. We don't need any more guns. I don't think putting this out and asking parents to do this is going to change much of anything. Being someone that I enjoy guns and enjoy shooting and enjoy all that stuff, this is almost directly from NRA's suggestions to do as well. But I don't believe that it's going to have a positive effect as much as it's going to have a negative effect on the district. It's just going to open more cans of worms, if you will. I personally don't go to the school board for my gun safety learning. And I would be hard pressed to believe that anyone who is a gun owner is going to have their weapon sitting out somewhere in their house and say, oh my gosh, well, the Mark School Board said I should lock that up. I don't think there's anything wrong with what's here. I agree with what's being said. I just think we're way out doing so.
I guess I'll just agree with Matt on that, because I think, I don't think we need to want to have a desire to dictate on what the families are going to do in their homes, albeit guns or whatever that is. Do I put my beliefs on them? Absolutely not, because I don't have guns in my home for various reasons. But I just don't think, back to your statement, and I make this statement on a weekly basis to my granddaughters: stay in your lane and mind your own business. And what's our role as a school board? Our role is to govern policies. And I think that's where we should stay with this.
And I look at it a little bit differently. I like the way it was worded. I think maybe probably older parents would get some of this and say, you know, I never even thought about it before. Because before I sold the weapons that I had, okay, in the legal way, I never was thinking about it. Ammunition was completely separate from the weapons. I look at what we were just discussing tonight about safety and security of our kids. That is a big concern. We had an incident last year where we lost a student due to, you know, them getting a hold of a weapon. I think it isn't, we're not saying, hey, this is mandatory. It's, hey, as a parent, why not think about this if you haven't? Okay? One of the other things that concern me, and correct me if I'm wrong, last year in the legislature, they were trying to get passed that it's okay to bring a weapon on public ground as long as it was locked. And it didn't pass, I don't believe, but I think it might come up again. And to me, it's terrifying to know that we might have some vehicles that have a weapon in it, and that's why I was supporting this, I'd hate to have that happen. I know it, with the Linmar district, but, you know, it's just something that bothers me. And I think, like you said, I think it's a no-brainer, I think it's common sense, but I think it's a wake-up call for us to support the safety of our students. A wake-up call to some parents that may have never even thought about it. You know, it's just, hey, we haven't had a problem, it's no big deal, but, you know, maybe we should do something like that. It's not an edict coming from the school board necessarily as, hey, something that we should think about. That's just my perspective.
Anybody else?
I tend to follow this part on this one. I saw it from a student safety and, student mental health perspective. The data that was in there around, school shootings, the data around suicide prevention, we have a crisis in our country right now, and no, it's not in our jurisdiction to mandate to anybody in our, how to parent. Absolutely not. But do we have the opportunity to provide information, education to our families on things that they can do to be able to help reduce risks? I think that that is something that we as a district can do, and I guess for me, I would prefer to err on the side of prevention, than to be sitting around this table talking about another student death, or multiple student deaths. And that to me is worth the risk, because we're talking about kids' lives. And, I think that there are families in this community that don't own guns, that don't necessarily even think about the fact that there are others that might own guns in their circle of friends, and give some really basic strategies on, here are some questions to ask before you send your kid to another home, just so that you know what your child might be walking into. And so I think that it's more broad than just telling a gun owner who's already responsibly storing their guns, here's what you should do. And I agree that it's probably not going to necessarily change how a lot of people store their guns, but I also think that there might be somebody who's like, you know what, it's a good reminder. I don't think that it hurts anything to provide reminders, and there might be some small adjustments that could be made for some people that could be that one extra thing that keeps that gun out of access, out of a kid's hands, that saves a life.
I think to respond to that a little bit. There is a negative consequence to doing it, even if, you know, the intended consequence of what you're saying is, maybe it's a good reminder. And it is, I'm not disagreeing that is a good reminder, and anyone listening to and tell people that. My concern is, this is going to turn into a much bigger problem that we don't need, with very little upside benefit. We need to stay focused on education and out of the politics. Just the nature of what we're talking about, just us sitting here. Here's the conversation that started. That's going to ripple through the community, and it's going to become a much bigger problem than to not do this. I don't think there is an upside.
Sandra, Rachel?
I don't know that I would agree that it's not in our lane to some degree. We provide education to our community and families about all sorts of things. And unsafe storage of guns presents a real risk to not just individual children and things that happen to them at their home, but they can bring those weapons into our schools and they can harm others with them. So, I don't necessarily think that it's not in our lane, and I don't think it's much different than, you know, the American Academy of Pediatrics coming out and starting to ask parents at their, at kids' annual visits, do you have a firearm in the home? Do you have it locked up? I mean, that's a question at pediatrician appointments. I mean, what's interesting, Matt, is that, you know, you pointed out that, like, this is probably a lot of what the NRA says also about, you know, gun security and storage and all of that. And yet, I don't disagree with you at all that this would definitely, this has the potential for sure to be a lightning rod. And I think that that's just such a statement on where we are, and that makes me really sad. And I also don't know what it says about us, you know, the state of affairs more globally, or us, you know, that such a really benign thing, that we would be scared to just say, hey, you know, FYI, lock your guns up, because the statistics show that most kids, I mean, I have seen multiple stories lately about kids getting a firearm at their home, shooting themselves, shooting a sibling, shooting a parent. I just saw a little boy shot his pregnant mom. You know, that we couldn't just say, like, hey, just a reminder, we're not telling you what to do, we're just giving you the statistics and just, you know, giving you a little bit of information. And we can't even do that. We can't even do that, because people are going to suddenly say that we're trying to take their guns away. That'll be the message.
I agree with what you're saying there.
No, I'm not, that's not
But my,
directed at you,
I
that's
know,
just.
I know, but my point of this whole thing is if a member from the Iowa Concealed Carry Association or the NRA came in and brought us the same information, it wouldn't be up for consideration.
Why not?
Because
That's not true.
I truly believe that it wouldn't have that.
Okay, but that's, you can believe that, but that doesn't, just because you believe that doesn't necessarily make that true, and that is not true for me. That is absolutely not true for me. If the NRA comes in and says, this is good information, and this makes sense, I'm gonna say, yeah, you're right, it does. And hell, if the NRA's behind it, then let's do it, because then it seems less like a political lightning rod. And I haven't heard anything, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you know something I don't, but I haven't heard anything to suggest that this organization is politically motivated. I mean, they specifically said,
Moms Demand Action.
no, be smart for kids.
Right, but it was brought to us by Moms Demand Action.
Yeah, but
And if
are
we're
they,
going to, if we're going to set the precedent of, groups, political activist groups bringing us information, that we start having these conversations, we need to do it with all of them. We've had information brought to us by other groups.
well, do you wanna invite the NRA in? So
I don't want to invite
No.
anyone in.
That wasn't antagonistic, I was being serious, like, do you wanna have the NRA look it over
No,
and say, that's good education to provide to our families?
it
Because you
is,
said it
but,
was good education.
but not, come on, this is not the education we should be focusing on.
So I have a question. Kids are being killed in our schools. So there was a bill in the legislature this year in session, and it did not pass. I'm sure it's gonna come up again, but it would have required school districts to provide NRA gun safety classes to every student.
NRA what?
NRA NRA gun safety,
Gun safety.
which would emulate some of these philosophies of how to keep guns safe, away from kids. If you do interact with a gun, this is the safe way to do it. So these conversations were being, that law would have put that, we would have been required as a district to offer gun safety.
For a student.
Yes, and this is.
And communicate, part of that was also to communicate those requirements and the curriculum of that to parents, and to let them know that we were doing that. Aside from that, every time there's a school shooting, we get emails asking us to put an SRO in every building, to have, more safety conversations, to, talk with community members, to talk with parents, to have broader conversations about how we can prevent a school shooting from happening in our district. We have, not since COVID, but before COVID, I remember attending the Marion PD's parent information session on ALICE training. What we do in every school building at every level, and then there was a scenario in which parents could participate in an ALICE drill. I did that. It's terrifying. But this would not be setting a new precedent, because there is a safety aspect to what we do. School shootings are growing, they're now happening so often that some of them we don't even hear about. So it's a growing concern with parents across the district. I don't think that fear has a political party attached to it. I think that parents, no matter what their political affiliations are, every time there's a school shooting on the news, they're terrified, what if my kid's building is next? So what can we do as a district to ensure that we're providing safe information, we're providing a safe environment, that we're talking about the things that we need to talk about? I honestly, as I've read through this, and I've read it several times, because I don't want to be a lightning rod for unnecessary things, but the lightning rod of the political discussion is taking guns away, having guns, access to guns. None of that this isn't that. This isn't telling people you shouldn't have a gun. This is telling people school shootings are an issue in today's reality. And here are the statistics that show that, and here is something that we can do as a community to help protect our students. There's nothing in here about you shouldn't have a gun. And I would be honest with you, I'm a gun owner. I have one. I'm not anti-gun. I am pro safe guns and safe students and safe school educational spaces. So.
But just to add to that, just real quick, if I have your thought, that is not how it's gonna be perceived. There's your gun activists that love guns, we're gonna look at this as Linmar needs to keep their nose out of our business. We don't have guns, we'll have guns. I appreciate the education, that's just my feeling. I appreciate the education, I appreciate all that. But I think it's gonna throw us, it's gonna put us right back with full IR.
I don't disagree with that, Mary, and I don't know, because of that very thing. The only other piece to that I feel the tug is, are we as a body going to make decisions about what's best for students, or what people will take and create? And I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm not at all saying that you're wrong. It just feels more and more like I can't do this. Like it says, do what is best for students, and I can't do that because I gotta worry about how what I'm doing is gonna be twisted.
Well, yeah, and we're here to run a school district, that's our main objective, and we're here for all kids, we're here all of those kids.
That's all I'm saying.
And just to clarify, Matt and Barry, I may look at this through rose-colored glasses. I know, I hear your concern, and to be quite honest, I hope to God that that wouldn't happen. I'm not saying that scares me that people would twist it, because it is a possibility, and I wasn't thinking of that as a possibility. I was hoping and praying that something like what you said might happen doesn't. But every school shooting, there's somebody that comes, that they interview on the news, and somebody says, I never thought it would happen in our community. Every single one, there's always somebody that does it. I don't want to have anybody hurt. I don't know, maybe I look at the district with those rose-colored glasses and think, I just hope to shout that what you guys said might happen would never happen. And that's on me. Maybe that's my naive approach to this, but I just wanted to clarify what I said.
So I wanna make sure, Sandra, do you have anything you wanna add?
Well, my problem is I can see all sides of it, just like most of us sitting here. You know, one part of me says, it's pretty simple, it's laid out, it's not demanding anybody to take anything away, nobody's rights are being taken, it's just a statement of, think of these things and safety. And then the other side is, do we wanna get into it? So, I'm just where everybody else is.
Caught between a rock and a hard place.
We don't vote on anything in work sessions, so I guess what I would ask everyone to do is think about what your fellow board members have said, just reflect on the conversation that we've had. And we have one more strategic planning conversation, and we will dig into fostering a safe, healthy, and respectful learning environment. As I said at the beginning, there is no recommendation attached to this folder. There's no decision here, there's no recommendation here, this is just something to ponder as part of our safety plan. So think about what everyone has said, reflect on that, and we'll all gather back together on the 25th for the strategic planning and board retreat. Thank you for the discussion and for the work. And does anyone else have anything they want to add with regards to the strategic planning conversation? All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:11.